Hey, it's Robin Sop, FTH 212, week 3 assignment, and today is March 5th, 2026. All right, let's get into it. I look back at the assignment I submitted in week 1. I honestly don't think I would change any of the answers I gave. At that time, I explained what I understood about striker fire pistols, and after going through this module, I feel that basically the basic understanding was still correct. However, I do realize now that striker fire systems have more going on inside than I first thought. There are several internal parts that all work together during the firing cycle, like the striker, trigger bar, and the safety components. If one small part is out of place or worn down, it can affect the whole system. To continue increasing my knowledge about these firearms, I plan to keep reading about them and studying diagrams that show how all the internal parts work together. Other thing that really helps me learn is actually taking guns apart and putting them back together. Disassembling a firearm lets me see how the parts move and interact, which makes it easier to understand how the system works. The more hands-on practice I get, the more confident I will become when diagnosing problems or performing repairs in the future. All right, let's get to part two, installation of the iron sight. When I first built the dagger, I installed the original sights using a brass punch and hammer and painter's tape to protect the slide. While that method works, I wasn't a big fan of using a brass punch because it still leaves small marks on the sight. Because of that, I decided to buy a sight pusher tool. Uh, the sight pusher tool allows me to press the sights into place in a more controlled way instead of hitting them with a hammer. Using the sight pusher made the installation process much easier and more precise. During the installation, I did not encounter any fitment issues. The sight slid into the dovetail properly, and the sight push allowed me to slowly move the rear sights into place without forcing it. The front sight was easy, just a little bolt, screw, whatever you want to call it, and that fit perfect. So to avoid damaging the slide or the sights, I used a sight pusher instead of a punch and hammer. This tool applies steady pressure, which lowers the risk of scratches and dents on the slide. Using the sight pusher definitely made the process easier. Instead of tapping the sight and worrying about hitting it too hard, I could slowly turn the tool and move the sight exactly where I wanted it. To center the rear sight, I used a measurement marking that was built into the sight pusher. I simply adjusted the sight and I used a ruler until the measurements were even on both sides of the slide. As you can see here, the rear sight is center and the sights are securely installed. Unfortunately, I did not have time to go to the range to perform the test firing after installing the sights. Normally, the test fire would be an important step because it allows the gunsmith to continue that the sights are properly aligned and that the firearm is functioning correctly. If I had completed the test fire, I would have checked it to see if the point of impact matches my point of aim. That would tell me whether the rear sights needed any further adjustments.